How's it going, everyone? Happy Super Bowl Sunday, and welcome to episode 50 of Odds Are, your S&P 500 weekly market forecast. All right, let's take a look at what happened last week. So, if you recall, we closed right below the red midline going into the week, and I said that there was no directional bias. This market could swing one way or the other, can go up into the area within the Bollinger Band but above the midline, or in the envelope that is below the midline. And that depending on which way we swung, right, could really set the tone for the weeks to come. Well, the market couldn't figure out which way it wanted to go either. So I think we were on the same page there because it shot up, it went up and barely, but it did breach the upper breach point of 45.82, so it hit like 45.83 and then turned back around, went all the way back down to the midline, and then went to almost breach the 43.92 breach point. So all in all, we did have a breach of the breach point. The market price action was as I forecasted, just kind of like all over the place, up or down, no directional bias, and we stayed within the expected settlement range. All right, let's take a look at what's happening now with the moving averages. So moving averages, this is an interesting one. We haven't seen this one before, where we are now neutral on the short term, but bearish on the medium term and bullish on the long term. So what in the world does this actually mean? So what we're seeing is that in the short term, there's no clear indication of which way it's going. This thing has been bouncing so much that it's kind of been a wash, and so it's neutral on the short term. But in the medium term, if we look at how this relates, like the market in the medium term has been going down. But we've been in choppy weather in the short term, so that's why it's neutral in the short term, bearish on the medium term, but overall, we're still bullish on the long term. To me, this is indicating that if the short-term moving averages are supposed to be the leading indicator, then if the short-term moving average switches to bullish, then that's going to pull the medium-term moving average up. If it switches to bearish, then it's just going to basically push that moving average for the medium term even further down, keeping it in bearish territory longer. And then eventually, we all know that could affect the long term, turning it neutral, but that is yet to be seen. All right, let's take a look now at what we are forecasting for next week. So very similar to last week, where we have an offset, and the expected settlement range this week is going to be between 42.88 and 44.86, but the upper breach point is at 45.32. So there's an 81.38% chance that we're going to breach one of these two breach points. If it's the top breach point, the 45.32, then we could very well close above that 44.86, which then again, kind of gets us back towards that midline, gets us back into a, hey, are we going to rebound or not? If we go down, we breach the 43.40, then I do expect us to still close above 42.88. The odds of the settlement range being closed within that range is going to be 71.99, so let's just call it 72%. And then the parabolic SCR is still way up there at 47.83 and inching down slowly. Let's put this into the relative view for this week coming up. So you see that big red candle at the last day, so on Friday, big drop, and leaving us in that lower half of the Bollinger Band, basically below the midline. And so I look at these as envelopes. I look at the top envelope and the lower envelope, and right now it looks like we have tried to get back up into the upper envelope and failed twice now, right? So we have about a week ago, we tried to get back up there and then went back down, ended up below the midline, and again this week. That does not bode well for equities. I think that is a very bearish indicator. I think we're going to stay within that lower half of the Bollinger Band, which means that I'm looking at the 43.40 breach point. I'm thinking we're going to definitely stay within the settlement limit. What's interesting is look at that the settlement range, 42.88 and 44.86. That is basically all within that lower channel. So you see that lower envelope. The 44.86 is like right where the midline's at, and 42.88 is a little bit below where the lower edge of the Bollinger Band range is at. So I think we're going to be in that area in this week to come. And I don't think we're going to have any chance of getting up to that 47.83. If we do breach the 45.32 breach point to the top side, then I would expect some pullback and towards the midline, and we still could close below 44.86, but that's a whole different ball game at that point. All right, now, didn't see that one coming. Well, last week I said that there was no directional bias and it was, it could go either way. And that's what the market did. It swung up, it swung down. If you guys are trading in options, that could create some really fun opportunities. I actually was in a trade where it was very advantageous for me early in the week to get out of one half of it, and then when the market swung back around, I got out of the other part of that trade. So for those of you familiar with like iron condors and things like that, it was a fun week. And I think that if you had a chance to really look and digest what's going on in the market, you can't really say you didn't see this coming, because the market needed to find some direction. It's choppy, it's a little bit confused, there's a lot going on. Geopolitically, there's a lot going on as we are entering into the season, and it's one of those things where I try to give you guys as much insight and maybe a little bit of foresight into what's going on this week. So hopefully somebody out there was able to benefit from that. In this week to come, I am still on a very bearish note because I think we're going to be below. So this would not be the time to go out and just buy a bunch of stocks. That's just my thought. I mean, again, you guys obviously have to do what is right for you, but that's just what I'm thinking. All right, and let's wrap up now with the quote of the week. And this week is by Mr. Sami Abu Saad, who is the Director of Education at T3, which is a trading technology training platform. And what he says is, are you willing to lose money on a trade? If not, then don't take it. You can only win if you're not afraid to lose. And you can only do that if you truly accept the risks in front of you. We talk about this every week. We talk about how the odds should be in our favor, how we try to take trades and try to take advantage of high probability opportunities. But even a high probability opportunity has a chance of losing, right? So even if it's an 80% trade, there's 20% chance you could be wrong, and you need to incorporate that into your planning. You need to be able to handle those losses. And so I like to build trading systems, and when I track the past performance, I make sure that I am looking at the balance, I'm looking at the risk reward ratio, I'm looking at the maximum drawdown. I'm basically trying to see, what does this ride really look like? It's great to say, hey, after 10 years I would have $1 million. Well, that's fine, but could you have handled that big drop from $100,000 to $25,000 and then work your way back up? You have to account for that. That's a 75% drop in your equity. So knowing what your risks are and understanding it and factoring that into your trading strategy is absolutely essential. So I recommend everybody take a look at your approach, take a look at your systems, take a look at how you're trading, and ask yourself, am I really ready to lose as much money as it takes for this system to actually pan out? And what is that number? Do you really know what your risk is on your system? If you don't, then that might be the black swan that really comes and takes you out. Hopefully that doesn't happen to anybody, but that's the reality of it. All right, not trying to be pessimistic, so let's go into this. Hope you guys have your nachos, your wings, whatever you have going on for the Super Bowl. I know I'm going to enjoy the commercials myself, so I hope you guys have a great week, and I will see you guys back here next Sunday.